You might have heard about this, the nuclear negotiations with Iran. Looks like it's moving forward a little bit. The P5+1, we got a deal. There's a lot to do here, so I'm going to try to break it down simply because I feel like this is what's getting lost. Everyone's just immediately like, hey, it's great, or oh, it's awful. So let's break it down a little bit. Here's what the US and the P5+1 got. Iran's going to neutralize all their 20% enriched uranium. They can't enrich uranium over 5% and must dismantle equipment that can do so, so they can't build more. This is centrifuges and things like that, and they're going to get daily IAEA inspections. Here's what Iran got. 4.2 billion in overseas assets unfrozen, 1.5 billion in sanctions lifted, and the US implicitly acknowledges Iran's right to enrich. There's already a debate about this. Iran is saying that they got the right to enrich. The US is saying not quite, and we got a little more for you. Here's just some reasons why it might work. China and Russia are on board, so we have a bigger international group backing this. It meets the Iranian demand for the West to acknowledge its right to enrich. As I just said, that seems to be a little up for debate at the moment. And unfreezing of assets is tied to Iranian compliance, so they have to actually do some things to get some of these assets back. And here's some reasons why it might not work. It only lasts 6 months. The permanent deal might be tougher. So this could last a little bit and then fall apart. Many countries, most of the neighboring countries, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, they're all skeptical. And those are the guys that basically live on their borders. There's opposition both in DC between the Senate and the Congress and in Tehran. And it ignores non-nuclear issues, funding for terrorism. They fund Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're funding Assad in Syria and all kinds of stuff. OK, so it's a lot of information, but that's pretty bare bones stuff. How do you feel about the deal? We'll just start with the general end of it.
Look, I like the concept of diplomacy, but yeah, I am concerned. I mean, one of my greatest concerns is, yeah, I'm all with the daily inspections, but it still doesn't sound like real verification to me. And I do have very serious concerns about that. And also, like you said, the last point's a big one to me. It doesn't address the non-nuclear issues, which are still very, very much concerning. That's not the only issue, is the possibility of a nuclear bomb.
Right, so everyone's ignoring that part of it. That, right now they have this American hostage right now.
Three.
They have three?
Three.
Okay, so there's 3 American hostages. I don't even know about the other 2.
Well, 3 Americans in prison.
Okay, so they've got 3 Americans in prison. So we didn't address that. We didn't address the Hezbollah issue. We didn't address arming Assad and all that. So a lot of people are saying that that's legit. We're not addressing immediate concerns. But is this sort of how negotiations have to work, that we had to give up some stuff too?
Well, I hope not. There's so much here, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, on the 3 Americans in prison, truth be told, I work with one, trying to help Amir Hekmati get out of prison.
Okay.
I don't think that this deal should ever deal with Americans in prison. There are 2 separate issues, and we should not put our government in the position of negotiating for prisoners.
Right.
We don't do it. We shouldn't expect others to do it. That's not a very...
What's the basis for that, basically?
Because this is a nuclear issue. This is very serious national security issues. This is not something that we want to trade prisoners for. That will encourage someone to grab an American next time, and then we have to negotiate for that American. So I would immediately put that aside. I'm sure the family's not happy that I'm saying that. The simple fact on this deal is, though, we have 6 UN Security Council resolutions already passed that are very clear, that say Iran must stop enriching all uranium.
Right.
Russia and China are on board with that. So this agreement is not greater international support. We already had Russia and China on board. This agreement is less than the UN Security Council agreement. This is weaker than the UN. When you are weaker than the UN, you've got a really big problem. I don't buy that you have to do this just for negotiation's sake. Your point on the daily inspections is a really good one, because it's not really daily inspections of anywhere we want to go. It's daily inspections where they tell us to go.
Right. Okay, so that's the part. So let's talk about the trust thing here, because so they can say, yeah, you can inspect this building today or this heavy water reactor today, but we have stuff over here that you can't see, and we've already been through this with North Korea. So is part of the excitement over the deal is that just most people just sort of don't understand, like it sounds good all on paper, but then actually how it works.
I think people are excited that there's engagement for the first time in 30 years. I think people are excited that there's been a 15-minute phone call, and now that there's handshakes and embracing, and it looks like diplomacy. But I do tend to agree with some of the things both of you guys are saying, and especially some stuff Rick is saying. I think we gave too much and we got too little. And I think that's ultimately, any deal is not necessarily a good deal. A deal, yes, that's good. That's a step in the right direction. And I appreciate John Kerry saying it's just that a step. And we've got the 6 months to go further, but it does feel like they got a little more than we did.
I wonder why Hillary didn't do this deal. Because she was against it.
Really?
Oh, she's not going to negotiate with Iran. Let's be very clear about something that the media is not telling us. We have negotiated on this for a very long time. In 2006, we started with a deal. The international community was united. And what President Obama did was undercut the entire international community to pretend like he got some new deal and that we're talking with them for the first time. Yes, the Americans are talking with the Iranians directly, but make no mistake, we've been talking in a group for a very long time, and the world has been united. We just lessened the demands.
So what do you say to the people that say, well, just the talking is good? This whole thing that's happening on Twitter, I've been very vocal about how I think the whole Twitter thing's ridiculous because it's blocked.
Right.
Twitter is blocked in Iran, so Rouhani and Zarif, they're all tweeting to us in English.
Did you see
and
Zarif's
then everyone
YouTube video?
No, he's putting, he's
put out a YouTube video, and I was like, great, can you open up the internet in Iran so that your people can actually see your video?
So,
it's all a farce.
So they keep contrived, right?
Right, so they're telling us about this charm offensive, except we're the only ones seeing it. So it seems to me that if you really were behind the people of Iran, you would be fighting at first, how about we just give them Facebook? And then we'll go, okay, well now maybe we trust you, because they don't seem to trust their own people enough. But yet we should trust them.
The hardcore issue is whether or not they have the right to enrich.
Right.
Okay, and already today we heard the Iranians come out and say, we're so thankful that we have the right to enrich, when the White House is saying, no, you don't, and now the Iranians are calling the White House a liar. It's 4 days in, Dave. We're already falling apart on this agreement.
So I think what John Kerry would say to that is, well, we can just ratchet up the sanctions again after 6 months, but I don't think you agree.
Look, a lot of people think that they're 2 to 3 months away from breaking out, and this neutralizing their 20% enriched uranium is a lot of BS, because you can neutralize what we know you have. We don't know what else is behind the curtain. And if you neutralize a little, you can ramp it up pretty fast.
Yeah, so speaking of what we don't know, I think there's sometimes when we all talk about this stuff, we can only get the information that's being disseminated to us. Right. And look, it's already come out that they were negotiating privately for a long time. So is there a little bit of futility in sort of the day-to-day discussion of this stuff, unless you're sitting in the meetings right there?
Right, and that's the part about it that, I want to get behind it. Emotionally, it sounds really good to me, but I don't know, maybe it's the defense lawyer in me. I'm just always anticipating what I don't know and what we're not seeing as a nation. And like you said, Dave, they don't even trust their own people, so I don't know how I can trust anything you're telling me.
Because right, so what could we do to then empower the people and not empower the regime? Because no one's, I haven't heard anybody, even the most people, the furthest people on the right, I haven't heard anyone say they're against the people of Iran. People want them to be free.
Well, what we could have done is we could have supported the Green Revolution when they took to the streets. But instead, President Obama said, we're not going to get involved. So he took a pass at supporting the people, and he's supporting the government now. So I think President Obama is doing the exact opposite what he should be doing. If you want to bifurcate the people from the government, support the people. Don't play into the government's lame messaging. I mean, it's just, they're not a bunch of moderates. Rouhani tweets, and our entire media go crazy because he's tweeting.
I cannot believe that everyone retweets it like, oh my God, this is so great, except they can't see it.
It's because we're so thirsty for the idealism behind it.
But that's on Twitter, there are some great people to follow that are inside Tehran that are doing, and I'm not talking about Thomas Erdbank from the New York Times. I mean, I think he's terrible. He's part of the problem, but there are people on Twitter that are really good to follow, that are inside Iran, that are giving you really unfiltered information.
Right, because there are ways to get around it. Now, I'll get some of those names and we'll put them in the description. Okay. So my last thought on this is, I think it's also a little bizarre that countries that don't border Iran seem pretty thrilled about this. So us and England and France and Germany and Russia, et cetera. But all the guys around them are going, this is not good. I mean, the fact that Saudi Arabia and Israel suddenly seem like allies is crazy. So how do we, should we be giving a little more credence to the neighbors that are right there?
I think so, because again, they at least have a likelihood of seeing a lot more truth than we're seeing. We're just too far removed from it, and I agree. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's clearly what we're seeing with Israel and Saudi Arabia. And that gives me more pause. Like, I'm already looking at Iran sideways, right? You know, and now that your closest geographical neighbors are so adamantly fearful and opposed to it, gives me even further pause.
Yeah.
We got to give them some credence on that.
Our allies don't trust us, and our enemies don't fear us anymore. And it's a really sad commentary on the Middle East. But, you know, I look at Turkey and Jordan and, you know, Lebanon, I think, is one of the saddest stories of the Middle East.
Yeah,
we pushed the Syrians out of Lebanon to give Lebanon a chance in the Bush administration. And now the Syrians are back in Lebanon. Lebanon has fallen apart all because of the Syria-Iran problem. And now we just empowered Iran. The Lebanese are left out.
Yeah. All right, so final thought on this, because we could talk about this forever probably. So what would you say to the people that would say, heard everything you just said right there and say, well, what's the alternative? War? Because that's sort of the way it's being framed right now. Either we had to take this deal or war was coming.
Nobody wants war, but the simple fact is you have to ask yourself a very tough question. Do you want a nuclear-armed Iran? And I think, you know, the President Obama says no. Everyone has said no. The reality is, the facts show they're really close to a breakout. 6 months of them pulling our chain could be the difference of them breaking out. So sanctions are not going to work any longer. It's too late for sanctions. I think the fact of the matter is, if you don't want a nuclear-armed Iran, you're going to have some sort of action.